Venezuela, citizens participated in the second day of the People's Assemblies to propose projects for the popular consultation on November 23rd. Cuban authorities made progress in responding to citizens' needs after the impact of Hurricane Melissa. In Sudan, less than 6,000 citizens arrived in that Tawila camp for displaced people in the days after the rapid support forces took over El-Fasher city. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Sophie Fernandez from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, citizens participated in the second day of the People's Assemblies to propose projects for the popular consultation on November 23rd. These actions, guided by organized popular power, strengthen popular organizations through national popular consultations that have been taking place for over a year throughout the country. This is part of the deepening of participatory and protagonistic democracy in response to the concrete action agenda and the map of dreams created by the country's communities in order to prioritize their projects and submit them. From the early hours of the morning, citizens' assemblies in states such as Miranda, La Guaira, Cojedes, and Táchira agreed on their local needs with a view of continuing to advance community development. In other news, in Russia, the government expressed its strategic solidarity with Venezuela while condemning the military pressure of the United States in the Caribbean. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela, given the escalation of threats and military pressure from the United States government. The senior official statements came when he was asked about a report revealing how Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro had asked his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, to supply defensive military equipment to deter possible foreign aggression. Moscow's support for multilateralism and self-determination is in contrast to Washington's interventionism and warmongering, which threatens the peace and stability of Latin America. In Venezuela on Sunday, it was the second day of the 16th Book Fair in Caracas, held under the slogan Awaken Your Mind. The event pays tribute to writer Juan Antonio Calzadilla Agrianza, recognizing his contribution to Venezuelan literature. The Sunday Communication Minister Freddy Núñez highlighted the importance of fostering the reading habit and strengthening the country's cultural identity. The fair, which will remain open until November 10th, features 71 booths and over 200 cultural activities. Also in Venezuela, the Nocturnienda Festival closed its ninth edition with an attendance of over 50,000 people. More than 200 artists performed on Saturday in the municipality of Chacao in Greater Caracas. At least 12 stages were set up in the historic center of Chacao, so that people could enjoy a variety of musical performances. In the premises there were health, police and civil protection officers to ensure a safe space for all attendees. Speaking of cultural events, over 600 youngsters and adults took part in the traditional educational gathering of the La Llora dance in the Bull Square's La Victoria in Circus in Aragua State. At the practical seminar, Governor Joana Sanchez highlighted the importance of traditional culture for the development of Aragua families. La Llora is a typical and traditional dance, native to the municipality of Jose Felix Rivas, which has become a cultural and folkloric reference inside and outside the state of Aragua. And on the baseball scene, the Venezuelan Professional Baseball League confirmed its popularity after drawing in a crowd of over 32,000 people to the first game between the Caracas and the Magallanes teams, held at the Monumental Stadium in Caracas, a game that was like a celebration for fans, which is evidence of the Venezuelan people's commitment to the promotion of sporting events. For its part, the Simón Bolívar Expo, From Child to Libertador, attracted over 1 million visitors. The exhibition is a revolutionary technological initiative dedicated to education using digital tools such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality and 4D experiences to tell the story of Simón Bolívar's life to the country's youngest citizens. The event that has inspired children and young people with the ideas of the Liberté de Simón Bolívar continues its journey throughout the national territory. On her social media accounts, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez explained that the experience evokes the independence that the people of Venezuela bravely defend, guaranteeing a peaceful future for everybody. In other news in Palestine, with an eye to the future, on October 31, 2025, the Gaza Strip concluded the first edition of the International Women's Film Festival, an act of cultural resistance that was born amidst the ruins and established itself as a symbol of life and hope. The closing ceremony took place in Deir al-Balah, the heart of the enclave, and marked the end of an intense week of screening, dialogues and tributes to the Palestinian creativity. The evening began with the Palestinian national anthem, followed by speeches by the founder and president of the festival, Ezeldin Shal, the Secretary General of the Journalists Union, Ahed Farwana, and the President of General Union of Cultural Centers, Jursi Darwish. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. In Cuba, authorities make progress in responding to citizens' needs after the impact of Hurricane Melissa. In Granma province, 135 people have been extracted from Guamo to Las Tunas as part of the province-wide evacuation. Line workers, firefighters and transport workers arrived in the east of the country to perform critical maintenance and recovery work on electricity and water services after Hurricane Melissa passed through. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Health and the Communist Party of Cuba are working together to respond to the health crisis in affected areas, focusing on vulnerable communities and disease control. The priority is to assist people with chronic conditions, pregnant women, children, and the elderly, as well as the rhetoric basic health services. Meanwhile, in Jamaica, humanitarian aid continues to pour into the country to counter devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. Social and international organizations began distributing food and water on Saturday to hurricane victims that had not yet received any humanitarian aid. Jamaican authorities have stressed the importance of getting aid to communities affected by the storm, which caused power lines and trees to fall. Also, the Jamaican government has expressed its condolences to the families of the 28 victims killed by Hurricane Melissa. Following devastating Hurricane Melissa, El Salvador has offered support to Jamaica by sending medical and rescue teams and supplies to assist the victims. The plane carrying the aid departed from San Oscar Romero International Airport with emergency equipment needed to deal with landslides, floods and rescue in confined spaces, as well as food and medical supplies. El Salvador Fire Department chief said the multidisciplinary contingency is made up of over 300 people trained in emergency response. In other news, Brazil is reporting decreased deforestation after a decade fighting climate change. Climate authorities said the news not only represents a victory for the environment, but it also highlights the effectiveness of renewed public policies and the role of society in those initiatives. They also said that legal deforestation in the Amazon has decreased by 22.3% compared to 2024. However, for now, climate threats persist, which require constant vigilance and a long-term commitment from all sectors of society. Moving now to China, a thick fog covered much of the north and east of the country, causing traffic disruptions and the temporary closure of several highways in at least 3 provinces. The thick fog occurred Friday midnight through Saturday morning, forcing authorities to implement safety measures such as traffic regulation, signage, and vehicle guidance at major intersections. Toll stations were supplied with emergency equipment, water, food, first aid kits to provide assistance to drivers. With sunrise, visibility gradually improved and the alert was lifted by midday. Meanwhile, in Kenya, the death toll rises to 26 after a landslide in the west of the country. According to social organizations, the areas most affected by torrential rains and flooding remain inaccessible by road. Rescue efforts are continuing amidst heavy rainfall. To date, 26 people have been rescued and transferred to various hospitals for medical attention. At the same time, disaster management agencies are searching for the rubble of collapsed houses, for these 30 people still remain missing. In other news, the United States Treasury Department Secretary Scott Bessent acknowledged his Sunday that certain sectors of the U.S. economy could enter a recession. Bessent stated that the real estate market in particular, whose contraction will always have more severe impact on lower-income citizens. The official attributed the current problems to the central bank's monetary policies, stating that the Federal Reserve has caused many distribution problems with its policies, removing the Treasury Department from possible responsibility for the recession. Bessent noted that a reduction in the key rate by the Federal Reserve could ease the pressure on the real estate market. The question is whether this reduction could benefit regular people, property owners, or real estate businesses. Moving on to Mexico, at least 23 people have died and other 11 were injured in an explosion at the store in Sonora. Sonora Governor Alfonso Durazo said the blast occurred in the center of the city of Hermosillo and that, unfortunately, several of the victims were minors. He also said that a comprehensive and transparent investigation is underway to determine the causes of the accident and find those responsible. Police have ruled out the possibility of the incident being an attack or an act of violence against civilians. We have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, but we'll be right back with more from the South. Don't go away. Welcome back. Only a few thousand Sudanese have reached the nearest camp for displaced people in the days since Sudanese paramilitary forces took the city of El-Fasher. Authorities specify that almost 1,000 people arrived in the last 3 days alone, after western Darfur was taken over by the Rapid Support Forces RSF, which expelled the Sudanese army after an 18-month siege. Reports indicate that the RSF has unleashed extreme violence against civilians, with incidents of beating, murders, and sexual assaults. The fall of El-Fasher marked a turning point in this war, which since April 2023 has left more than 40,000 people killed and displaced more than 40 million, according to the United Nations figures. In other news, on Sunday in southern Syria, there were reported brief combats between armed groups and military forces affiliated with the de facto government. Both groups clashed in the city of Walga after the de facto government attempted to enter the territory. At present, the total number of casualties or injuries is unknown. Tensions have increased in recent days due to military deployments in the west and north of the country. Palestinian authorities report that Israel is limiting humanitarian aid into Gaza, allowing access for only 145 trucks daily. The Gaza government media office reported that since the ceasefire began, 3,238 vehicles entered Gaza, including 639 carrying goods and 2,564 with humanitarian supplies. only 115 trucks of fuel were allowed, just 10% of the 1,100 promised. Restrictions disrupt vital energy supplies essential for hospitals and basic services. Medical officials warn that limited medical supplies jeopardize tens of thousands of patients. Meanwhile, the international community is urged to pressure Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to fulfill aid commitments and reverse the humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian organizations have denounced the deteriorating conditions faced by Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody. According to the Commission of Detainees and Ex-Detainees, the health of prisoners is deplorable and they are subjected to repeated beatings and repression. They point out that the prison administration frequently transfers them without prior notice, creating tensions within the wards. In this regard, humanitarian organizations demand an end to the abuses against Palestinians and that their social and legal rights be enforced in accordance with international law. Moving to Iran, the government announced its determination to reconstruct its nuclear facilities affected by the bombings by the United States and Israel, with greater capacity and technology. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian assured them that the science resides in the minds of the scientists, so there will be no problem with the destruction of buildings and factories. The president emphasized that Tehran is not seeking to manufacture nuclear weapons, but rather to resolve the problems of the population and civilian issues. Iran's firm stance was reinforced by the recent expiration of UN Security Council Resolution 2231, which lifted all binding restrictions on Iran's nuclear program, marking a milestone in the technological and energy sovereignty of the Persian nation. In other news, China and Russia reaffirmed their commitment to deepen their comprehensive strategic partnership after participating in the 29th session of the regular meeting committee. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and his Russian counterpart Dmitry Chernikashenko confirmed the willingness of both governments to maintain and expand bilateral strategic coordination. Chernishenko emphasized that Russian-Chinese relations are currently at their best and praised the outstanding progress made in this regard. At the conclusion of the session, both countries expressed their rejection of the unilateralism and trade protectionism implemented by the United States, while ratifying their joint commitment to defending the multilateral trade system. Meanwhile, the countries of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, known as OPEC, decided to increase their maximum oil production limit. The 8 OPEC participating countries decided to adjust production to 137,000 barrels per day from the 1.66 million barrels per day announced in April 2023. This adjustment will be implemented in December 2025. OPEC countries will also hold monthly meetings to assess market conditions, compliance and conversations, as well as establish production quotas as part of an agreement to stabilize the market. In turn, the members of the organization will meet on November 30, 2025 to make adjustments to the compensation schedule for previous overproduction. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Sophie Fernandez. Thank you for watching.